This one.
Yeah, Craig, would you get it sorted?
Sorry.
Tell me about it.
Whee!
He's not here to answer for himself. How's the last week been for you? Has it been quite helpful? I know a lot of the players are away, but I wonder whether your new role is giving you a bit of chance to bed in and spend a bit of time with the players.
Yeah, it's definitely given me a breathing space, but more importantly, I think it's given the players a bit of breathing space. I think we had a hectic couple of weeks with the games and the intensity of the games and emotionally and physically of the games. I think it was nice actually for them to have a bit of recovery days, have a few training days, and we've got the balance right. And thankfully everyone's come back in good shape in terms of the internationals. So hopefully now the rest has done us good.
Wes Morgan, how is he?
Yeah, still not fully recovered, unfortunately. We're trying to give him every opportunity. It's a nerve problem in his back, and with those you can't rush. We're trying to let nature take its course, but unfortunately he won't be ready for Saturday, and I think it'll be touch and go, if I'm honest, for Tuesday. But we're trying to see how he is every 24, 48 hours.
Is it one of those that you can't give an awful lot of treatment to then?
Well, he can get the treatment, but unfortunately, with a hamstring and stuff like that, you know how long he's going to be, whether it be 4 to 6 weeks. With a back, you're not quite sure. And we're trying to sort of give Wes enough time himself to see how he feels, and then push him when it's right.
Everybody else okay though?
Papi Mendy, again, he's struggling. He'll be struggling for Saturday and possibly Tuesday, but they're the only two. Otherwise, we've got a clean bill of health.
You mentioned the schedule. You've had a bit of time to rest and recuperate. You're going to need that, aren't you? I was looking at it: 3 games in the next 8 days, 6 games in the next 18 days. How do you prepare for that? How do you plan for that?
Well, I think they know the schedule. We know it. In terms of the intensity in training, we know that we can come down with the players that start. We have to keep everyone topped up, because I'm sure in that time there'll be opportunities for players who haven't started. They'll get the opportunity. It might be because I decide to change it. So we've got a strong enough squad, and in terms of mentality, I'm sure they're ready.
It's been a fantastic start for you personally, as life as a manager, and you could become the first British manager to win your first 4 Premier League games. It's never been done before by a British manager.
Right, okay, that's news to me. But again, I think all the records, I'm very conscious that you have to keep a bit of humility about it, because we know that it wasn't so long ago where our form was being questioned. I know that at the moment we're in good form, we're playing with a lot of confidence, but I think that word humility has to be important from my point of view to put it towards the players, to keep them level-headed, but also to make sure there's no complacency. And we know in football that every game's different. Stoke will be a very, very big test on Saturday, one we'll be ready for, but I think we have to keep our feet firmly on the ground.
That's been a dream start for you, though. You've been nominated for Manager of the Month in your first ever month as a manager. 4 straight wins out of 4. Better than you could have hoped for, surely.
Yes, I think I'd be stupid not to say otherwise. But I think it's one that I knew the players were capable of. And as I say, it's very pleasing, I think, for not just me, but for the players, the staff, the owners and the supporters.
Outside of the Champions League, do you think you're now safe in the Premier League?
No. And I mentioned that word, complacency. There's a lot of twists and turns to come. I think we're proof to that. 3 games ago in the Premier League, we were down there and people were writing us off. And you know that form, confidence can turn very, very quickly. And as I said, we'll be making sure that we not only just take each game as it comes, but there's a lot of points to still play for.
I want to ask you about Jamie Vardy as well, because since you've taken over, there's been a real resurgence in his form. 3 goals in his last 3 Premier League games. He's had 2 assists in that time as well. He's scored for England. What's the change in him that you've seen?
Well, again, I think strikers will tell you it's about goals. And for him to get the goals, a reward for himself, but also the team effort. But I think the whole team, in terms of the first result against Liverpool, was massive in terms of giving everyone confidence, and no more so than Jamie.
What about transfers? Have you started thinking about the summer now? Of course, it's a new role for you. How do you go about that? Thinking about transfers and what additions you might want for the squad?
I've got no problem sitting down and talking about recruitment, but my contract is only to the end of the season. I'm aware of that, but again, I have opinions. I will give them if asked, and one will be recruitment.
What about Stoke then? What do you make of them? 9th in the last 3 seasons. You talk about a lack of complacency, but it's a heck of an achievement to be top 10 for 3 consecutive seasons, isn't it, a club like Stoke?
Yeah, I think Mark's done a terrific job there, but also I think they're a very solid team now. But I think they've got some flair players. They've added to it, the squad over the years. And as you say, I think there'll be a real tough challenge for us on Saturday.
And finally, it sounds almost strange to ask you when you're the Premier League champions, but is Stoke a little bit of a model for you about that consistency in the Premier League that you maybe want to aim to? Let's say 3 seasons in the top 10 of the Premier League. That's the sort of level you want to try and get to, isn't it?
Yes, I think we want to be ourselves, and we are trying to do that. I think we're a bit unique in that, in terms of winning the Premier League, but we have to make sure that Premiership survival is there for us.
Thank you, mate.
Linda, please.
Rob talked about the game against Stoke. You had a player sent off in the last match. There were many bookings, a lot of indiscipline. Do you have to warn your players about that for the next game?
No, not particularly. I think that was a one-off. I think if everybody remembers the occasion, I think a lot of people, myself included, would have said Jamie was unlucky to get sent off in that. But again, these things can happen. We are a team who are disciplined, as the performance against Seville suggested. So I don't really have to warn that. I like them to be competitive, that's for sure. We'll have to do that on Saturday. But in terms of discipline, I think we are as good as anybody.
In the coming weeks, you have an awful lot of games. How many changes to your team will you have to make during that time? Because at the moment, the last 4 games, you've had to make 1 change. Will you have to make loads of them?
I think if I start second guessing and picking teams for games in the future, it has a habit of biting you on the bum. I think I've got to be prepared for this game and this game only, and then assess it from there.
Could it be your biggest test, though? I mean, the number of games that you have. I'm not saying you've had it easy so far.
I think it could be, but again, I think we're prepared for it. The players know. We know the monthly schedule. We know it will be sometimes that the training has to be curtailed. We know that, but we're fully prepared for it.
Nice one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Ian.
Internationals returned okay. Shinji Okazaki back?
Yes, Sinji's back. He was the last one back. And obviously because of the travelling distance and everything, he's come back, but he's come in a clean bill of health.
I wonder how the mechanics of that work. For example, Shinji's, as you say, it's a lot of travel. It's late as well because of the game against Thailand. Do you get kind of figures or medical reports? This is how they've trained. This is how much running we've had them doing. Do you get stats that then help you recover them for a league game?
Yes, we do, and we plan it before they come back. We're in contact with them while they're away to make sure that there's no little niggles, and if there is, what they are, and in touch with the national teams. But what we'll do as well is sometimes, depending on when they come back, they'll have a recovery day, so they'll be off their feet, of which Sinji had yesterday. He wasn't allowed to train. That was down to us because we made sure that today was his first day training back and he was sharp. So yesterday he would have done an aided recovery, so not on the grass. So all the players that go away, we make sure that they have a programme once they come back that suits theirs and our needs.
Shows how much the club's developed over the years, and this is your second spell here, of course, that there are so many internationals and there is so much more of that kind of work to do, I guess, to look after their long-term futures.
Yeah, and that's where, as I say, I give a lot of credit to the support staff in terms of the medical and the sports science. They're on top of it. They're aware. They're in liaison with the medical staff and sports science of the national teams. But I think it's to our advantage and to the players' advantage, and to make sure that their well-being is looked after. How's
Danny Drinkwater? Because we know that there was talk of a possible England call-up, but I think that he was managing his body, wasn't he, in terms of the rigours of playing first team football. How is he? He's fine. He got a few rest days which he needed. Danny's is more of a hip flexor problem brought on by fatigue. I think we'd like to thank England for the cooperation there, purely from a selfish point of view in terms of club. I'm pleased that he was able to get the rest, and he's trained fully the last few days and looking good. You're going to have to manage his body with the fixture congestion, do you think? Possibly, but again, it'll be one of those to, as you say, look at as we go along. Do you think your best 11, your first 11, are capable of playing 4 in 11 days?
Again, I think my focus is just on the next one, and then we'll see. I think in my head, I knew that the West Ham game we had a rest. This time we don't have a rest, so maybe the planning has to be in the back of my mind. But again, it will just be really take each game it comes and make sure we're competitive and try to pick the best team capable of winning that game.
Johan Benner won. I don't want to second guess your team selection. Fallen foul of that one a few times, but Johan played particularly well at West Ham, didn't he? Has he surprised you in some ways that with his mental strength, I'm not talking physically, the roller coaster he's been on with Leicester City, that he's been able to pick himself up and perform so well in his debut away?
He hasn't surprised me. I think we've had a good look at him now. He's been here, he's not been here just this season. He had a bad injury, he's come back from that. He's got suited more to the English Premier League by observing and watching, and actually we've been talking to him on the coaching staff. I think his game's developed, albeit not playing a proper competitive match. But I thought he was very steady against West Ham, coming up against a difficult opponent in Andy Carroll. But I think he showed what he's capable of, and I'm pleased that he did, because it gives us selection problems now ahead of the games.
Ahead of the game against Stoke, Mark Hughes has said you have to be careful with Leicester City, who try to suck you into an attack, kind of reverting back to their old tactics, seems to be his implication. Do you worry that other managers see you reverting back to your former tactics and might try and deal with it differently?
No, not really. I think we are what we are, and I think we were there for everyone to see last season. And it was, whatever the game details, it's there for us to try and compete and win the game.
The Birch is back at the weekend for the game against Stoke. Will that provide you and the club and the players with a bit of a boost ahead of the game?
This afternoon, I bumped into him before coming down here. It was in the canteen, shock, but never mind. But it was lovely to see him. And he was a bit sheepish, I have to say, in front of the players. But we took him into where the players were eating, and to see his face light up when they all came over, and actually each one gave him a big hug, was lovely to see, because he has been missed, and it was really good to see him back.
Good luck at the weekend.
Thank you.
Anything more for now before we go into the embargo section, Johan?
Hi, Craig.
Hi.
A great achievement for Shinji Okazaki to become one of only 55 players who've scored 50 goals for their country. Did you get a chance to watch any of the City players in international action? And if so, did you learn anything about them in terms of their skills and qualities that you perhaps don't see when they're playing alongside their City teammates? I
didn't get much chance to see any international football, if I'm honest. I had a break myself, but I sent Shinji congratulations. I think it's a marvellous achievement for him, and well represented from the club's point of view. But it doesn't surprise me with Shinji, because he's one of those players that gives 100% in training, in games, and he deserves all the credit he's got.
Thanks, folks.